So stay with me, right? So start with the historical aspects. So Anglo Saxon Age. So this age started in the 450 AD till the 1066. Before this, Greeks were ruling on this land. Julius Caesar came here in the 52 AD. Well, we're talking here about the Anglo-Saxon age. So these were the Germanic tribes, which includes your Angles, your Saxons, and your Jutes, right? And their rule ended with the Roman invasion in the 1066. Let's move further. Okay, now let's talk about the language of this period. Okay, so Old English was the language, and the closest language to this, which were there in the Germanic language, are Old Frisian, Old Norse, and the Old High German. This Old English had the four cases, as we had in the noun. So where else we had these four cases? We had this in the pronouns, in the adjectives, in the definite articles. Okay. Now, during this period, there were five languages were spoken. What are these languages? This is British, Scots, Pictish, English, and Latin. But only two languages survived, right? And English became the language of the having the communication, and the Latin become the written language of the your sacred books and scriptures, because Rome was the main authority. Rome was controlling the religious power, and during that period, whosoever the power of religion, they can control the whole humanity, right? Because science was not evolved till this time; it got evolved during the revival age. That is why I am taking this only from the Anglo-Saxon to the age of revival, because this is a whole era starting after that, right? Main cases are just between these ages, and that can be one of the reasons that you guys find this these units or these concept of the old histories very boring, right? Because you don't get to see anything which can affect your life these days, right? They are not even the part of the very higher education, and nobody like to take them in. Well, but for we are covering this from the net examination perspective, so let's cover it. Now let's talk about the literature, right? So Bede is the poet here, very famous for his ecclesiastical history of the English people, which he published in 1731. This is a book in the Latin. He was the first poet, but he is not the first poet to write in the Old English. The first poet to write in the Old English is the Cadmon, and his volumes are titled under the Charms. The title of his poems which he has written was Charms. Beowulf, one of the very famous poem we have, right? Epic poem we have, and this poem is set in the 16th century, right? In the Scandinavia. Scandinavian king is the Beowulf. He is the king of the Geats, right? And he is the one who defeated the Grendel, and then his mother, and he did not take the sword to fight with the Grendel, because he think of himself equal of Grendel, right? And he defeated him. But at the end, there was a fight between him and the wolf, or there was a fight between him and a huge demon, right? And he got really wounded, and he died at the very end, and he remained as a king, right? So here is the interpretation from the colonial people, that in Beowulf there were ambitions were being seen, that they were very ambitious to rule the world. Well, these are just the interpretations, and nothing more than that. Saine Wolf, his poems were collected under the title of the Exeter Book. Exeter Book is the manuscript, right? It is the manuscript. Oh, my writing is really good. I have a really good writing. So you give me the name of the other three manuscripts. One is the Exeter Book. You give me the name of the other three, right? Important literary works. One I shared with you, Beowulf. Another is the Seafarer. So Seafarer is the elegy, right? There is a man alone in the sea, and it is an account of that. Wanderer is a meditation on the exile, someone out there in the sea by himself. It is again an elegy. Dior, the lament of Dior, it is the elegy. Then we have this Wits, aka also known as the Traveller Song. This is the another important work of this period we have. Anglo-Norman period. I will try to bore you less. Right? Sometimes it gets really boring. Right? We have to crack some jokes maybe in between, but right now I can't remember, so we just have to complete it as soon as we can. Historical aspects, right? 1066, William Duke of Normandy conquer the England army. That's what happened, right? 1066, William Duke of Normandy came and he defeated the England army. Who was leading them? King Harold Godwinson. He was defeated in the Battle of Hastings in 1066. When did Battle of Hastings took place? In 1066 in Warwickshire at Stamford Bridge. He got defeat. West Saxon lost its supremacy and the center of culture, and learning gradually shifted from the Winchester to London. This is another thing you have to. This is the one of the shift happened after the conquering of England by the William Duke of Normandy. Now we have the language here. We are doing the Anglo-Norman period now. Northumbrian dialect. We are talking about the dialects, the languages here. Northumbrian dialect, Mercian dialect, and Kentish dialect. We had these three dialects, and later on these three dialects got divided into the Northern and the Southern. This Mercian into the West Midland and East Midland. This Kentish dialect into the Southwestern and the Southeastern. Right? During this period, because these Normans are the French people, French became the standard language of courts, of laws, parliaments, schools of municipalities. Latin was the language of documentation and chronicles. Right? Middle English was the language of the common people. So language was the language of the common people, Latin was the language of documentation, and French was the language of the administration, like your parliament, your school, and municipality. Words like cow, sheep, swine came from the English-speaking farmers. Beef, mutton, pork came from the French. Right? These are very helpful details. Now let's talk about the literature. We have Chanson de Geste. This is a French epic poem, right? It means songs of deeds dedicated to the Charles the Great. Then we have the Historia Regum Britanniae, the history of King of Britain, written around the 1136, 1136 में लिखी गई है, by Geoffrey of Monmouth. Who wrote this? Geoffrey of Monmouth wrote this in the 1136. It chronicles the lives of the kings of the Britons over the course of 2000 years. Layamon's Brut is the first English historical text we have here. Right? And the another poem. This is a poem now. The Owl and the Nightingale. This is written in the Middle English. Right? It details a debate between the owl and nightingale. They're talking about that who is more beautiful, right? They're talking about their physical aspects. That you talk in this way, you are good for nothing. Everyone wants to ignore you. The nightingale talking to the owl that nobody wants to see you. You are really horrific to see, you know. And my voice is very beautiful. It's like a honey in your ears. So all this conversation is happening there. I shift my accent very quickly. I don't know what's the reason. Hybridity? Do you think so? Maybe. Age of Chaucer, 1340 to 1400. Historical aspects. We're going to discuss here of the age of Chaucer. 100 years of war took place between the 1338 to the 1453. Armed conflict between the France and England it was. Between whom this was fought? France and England. Who won this battle? France. Peasant revolt in 1381 it took place because of the poll taxes imposed heavily in 1377, 1379 and 30 AD. And who led this peasant revolt? Wat Tyler, Jack Straw, John Bull, right? In 1348, Black Death, it took place, right? And it killed the 1/3 of the England's population, right? It really has beaten them down. It really has beaten them down. Lollard movement was a proto-Protestant Christian religious movement led by the John Wycliffe. Right? Don't you become fan of my writing, please. Please don't you become fan of my writing. Age of Chaucer. Language aspects now, right? English language became the official language of schools in 1386, courts 1362, parliaments in 1363. Remember it. When did English language became the official language of schools? 1386, court 1362, parliament 1363. During this time, French and Latin were the literary languages. He chooses who? Chaucer chooses the East Midland dialect for the standard English. So there we have the dialects. Remember, I talked about the three dialects: your Northumbrian, your Mercian, your Kentish, and these dialects were further divided into the two dialects. East, your Midland came out of the Mercian dialect, and this is the dialect he chose for the English. Now here comes the Chaucer, the man, the originator, who started this whole thing. Father of English poetry and the rising star of the Renaissance. He was born in the reign of Edward III. He was born in the reign of Edward III, lived through the reign of Richard II, and died the year after Henry IV ascended the throne. So he lived during the reign of these three kings, My Majesty, Richard II, Henry IV, and Edward III. I hope in order to become comic, I'm not taking away your interest from this video. Well, I also provide the crash course study material which covers all your 10 units, right? If you want to get access to it, so I have in my contacts below the description box, and you can get access to it by contacting me. So now here comes the writing period of the Chaucer. His writing period is divided into the three periods because he has written in the French language as well, which ended in the 1372, because we do not exactly when he started to write, I think, and we know that during the age of 16 he started to go to the court, and during this time with the king he visited all these French countries, and during this time he did only the translations, right? For example, the Romaunt of the Rose, which was the work written by the Guillaume, a French work it was, and it was the translation of this. Another work is the Book of Duchess. This is Chaucer's first narrative poem. It is a dream allegory written in the 1369 on the death of the Blanche, Duchess of Lancaster, to celebrate the dead women and console the John of Gaunt. His wife died. Her name is Blanche, and he was the patron of the Chaucer, and he was a very good friend of the Chaucer. So he wrote a poem when she died, which is called the elegy, right? When someone died, whatever piece of art or poem or whatever you write, that is known as the elegy. You cry over the death, and you also try to make the person strong who have lost that person. Another one we have, complained to pit. It's known as a complaint to pity in the modern language, right? Another period we have is the Italian period, started in the 1372, ended in the 85. During this period, he wrote Troilus and Cressida into 5 separate books, composed using rhyme royal, influenced by the Boccaccio's Filostrato. So Troilus and Cressida is influenced by the Boccaccio's Il Filostrato. Make sure you remember it. House of Fame is another poem which he written during the Italian period. It is the dream vision, composed in the octosyllabic couplet. I put a question in the quiz on Telegram, right? I hope you have checked this and attempted it. So here it is. Dream begins in the palace of the Venus. Where did this dream begin? In the palace of Venus, who is the Roman goddess of love and beauty. Who is Venus? Roman goddess of love and beauty. Poet is taken to the glass temple by the golden winged eagle. That's what happened in the House of Fame. And do you know one thing? This work is influenced by Dante. Remember it. Legend of Good Women. Poem is Dream Vision. Written in the heroic couplet, the first one to be written in the heroic couplet. Wrote 9 legends, 10 women characters. Thisbe is the best one here. Now started his English period. From 1385 to 1400, during this period he wrote Parliament of Fowls. It describes a group of birds. This is the day when your Valentine Day started, right? These birds gather together in the early spring on the Saint Valentine Day to choose their mates. That's why we choose our mates on the day of Valentine. I've never done this thing. Chaucer wrote it for King Richard II during the negotiation, right? During the negotiations over his marriage to Anne of Bohemia, right? Why it was written? Because King Richard II having the negotiations over his marriage to Anne of Bohemia. So on this occasion, he wrote this poem to make the king feel happy, right? So he was an obsequious person. The Chaucer was an obsequious person. We do not know, but he has done work similar to this quality. Maybe it was compulsory to do during that time. Here started our Canterbury Tales. So Canterbury Tales is sometimes compared to the Decameron, Giovanni Boccaccio's work, because he has written the similar work to this. Chaucer's original plan was about to write the 120 poems, 120 tales, but only 24 survived. This work contains 22 tales in the verse, 2 poems in prose. It should be tale actually, right? Tales written in the form of poem, right? So 2 in the prose and 22 in the verse. Which is Parsons' tale and Chaucer's tale? One prose tale is by the Parson, another prose tale is by the Chaucer. And which are these tales? We will know about them here. Now we have here 29 pilgrims, right? 30th is your Chaucer. 31st is your Harry Bailey, right? And they are going to the shrine of Thomas Becket, Canterbury, on whom T.S. Eliot has written a play, on what I have made a video. You can watch that. Gather at the Tabard Inn in Southwark. Where did they gather? Tabard Inn. This is where they are taking rest. This is where they are gathering, right? So now after this they all come together here in the Tabard, and then they move further on their journey. Female characters are here: wife of Bath, second nun, prioress. Harry Bailey is the host. He is the one who suggested the idea of telling tale. 4 tales in all, 2 while you going to the shrine and 2 while you are returning from the shrine. Because to entertain yourself, in the middle of the way, you have to tell some. Maybe you play in Takshri, but here you have to play. Here you have to tell the tale, because there was no dumb charas during that time. Night Tale's first story. Palamon and Aracite. Parson tells the last tale. So Night tells the first tale. What's the name? Palamon and Aracite, right? And Parson is the last one to tell the tale. Remember this thing. His character represents different social and professional strata that you must have read while reading this in your masters, right? Knight and his son Squire. Here we have 2 characters from the upper class. Who are they? Squire and the knight. Merchant represents the upper middle class. Merchant here represents the upper middle class, and knight and squire represent the upper class, and merchant represents the upper middle class. Canterbury Tales. The Prioress Tale, right? About the rivalry of Jews and Christians. Prioress tells this tale about the rivalry of Jews and Christmas. Here I have taken the important tale that you need to remember, right? So pay attention. In this, a boy is singing Alma Redemptoris, a song praising the Virgin Mary, who is killed by the Jew. He went into the Jew colony and praising, start singing a song in the praise of Virgin Mary. And Jews are not the one who follow the religion of Christians. They are Jewish people, right? So they hate their gods. So they kill the boy. Setting of story is a Jew dominated town in Asia. Chaucer's tale. He tells two tales. The tale of Sir Thopas in rhyming couplet. Chaucer tells the tale of the Sir Thopas in the rhyming couplet. Remember this. The tale of Melody is in the prose. Another character, his wife, whose enemy attacking his family. So, in the second tale, which is the tale of the Melodies, except him, uh, there we have another character, which is of the his wife. Whose wife? Melody, right? And he is being attacked. Whose enemy is attacking his family, right? Tale of Melody is about. I am over exaggerating. Okay. Chaucer tell the two tales. One is about the Thopas, which is in the rhyming couplet, another one in the prose. Here we have a character of the wife, except the Melody, and there we have a fight between the enemy and their family. The monk tale about historical and literary figures. Another tale is the monk tale, which is important to know here. Who fells down from the heights of name and fame in the historical era. We have many artists now, they fell down, and this is the tale about them, and he was interpreted by the knight here. Make sure you do not lose your interest. You have to keep going till the very end. The nun's priest tale is a beast fable, right? Tale is about rooster, Chauncleer, and the hen Pertilote. The tale is about Chauncleer rooster and the hen Pertilote had dream about fox chasing. Who having this dream? Rooster Chauncleer, which comes true. Okay, then we have second's nun tale. This tale is a biography of Saint Cecilia, who was executed for converting her husband and brother to Christianity. Pope Urban declared her saint, and this Saint Cecilia, she was only Celia, and she was later declared the saint, as our Thomas Becket was declared the saint. Where these people are going. Another important tale I have taken here of the man of law. His tale is told in the rhyme royal stanza. Tale is about misfortunes of Constance, daughter of a Roman emperor. Then we have Wife of Bath, very important. Wife of Bath tells tale of Lothly Lady, right? And she's also given the name of Lothly Lady sometimes. Who this name is attached with of Lothly Lady name is attached with the Wife of Bath. Tale is about King Arthur, a round table knight. This tale of Lothly Lady is about the King Arthur round table knights. Character of the knight here we have. There is a queen and the Lothly Lady. Here we have three characters: knight, queen, and Lothly Lady. Central question in the tale is, what do women want? Wife of Bath is a strong female character who had 5 husbands. Her last husband named Junkin slapped her and she became deaf. So she is deaf, right? And there is a space between her teeth, okay, which shows her hunger for the physical love. This is how it is being interpreted. She's a very strong character, and the first woman of the independent type in the literature we get to see in the Canterbury Tales. Then we have Parson. It was Parson, right? Parsons' Tale. Tale is in the prose. It is about 7 deadly sins. It talks about the 3 parts necessary for forgiveness, contribution, confession, and satisfaction. The 3 necessary part is confession, contrition, satisfaction. And Dryden said about this Canterbury Tale, what? Here is God's plenty. That's what Dryden said about Canterbury Tale. So we're done with this. Now move on the another minor writers of this age and his contemporary. John Gower was his friend, and he praised him in his Troilus and Cressida as the moral Gower. And then Gower reciprocated. Wapsi mein. He also praised Chaucer by putting the of words of praise in one of his character, Venus, in his work Confessio Amentis, Confession of the Lover. That's what it means in his English. Mirror de l'homme, the mirror of mankind, work by the John Gower, written in the French language. Vox Clementis, the voice of one crying out. It is a Latin poem of 10,265 lines. It's a elegy, right? It is about the peasant revolt of 1381. Another one is the Confessio Mentis, written in the 33,000 line. I don't think so any of us English literature student is going to read any of these poems, right? They are of no use, obviously, but they are of use in the net examination, so that's the reason we are doing them here. William Langland, Pious Plowman, his work, allegorical poem. Do you know allegorical poem? Allegorical, indirect reference. He talking about the current situations, because Christianity, the churches are going corrupt, and he is making a satire on that. Then we have 22 dream visions called the passus, which means steps in Latin. The narrator Will. Who is the narrator here? Will. William Langland, only taking Will. The poem is an exploration of Christian faith as narrator strives to uncover how to live a good Christian life. He is telling the authority of churches what is the way to live the good Christian life. The characters, allegorical characters are good, do well, do better, and the do best. Make sure you remember the first vision. They have 22 visions, but the famous visions are only these that I have discussed here. First vision is about a field full of folk laying in Melbourne Hills in month of May. Second vision is about 7 deadly sins that makes confession and in penance attempt to go on pilgrimage to St. Saint Truth. Where they are going? To Saint Truth, right? It can be Stephen Truth, it can be Saint Truth, but if you get truth, that you take as a right answer, you can do more research on that, but I don't think so. There is a need to do any research. This much is very much enough. Vision 6. We met 4 daughters of God: truth, justice, mercy, peace. These are the 6 daughters that we meet in the 6th vision. Who? Truth, justice, mercy, peace. Then we have a pearl poet. A known poet, but he wrote a very famous work, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. There comes a Green Knight, beheaded. He challenged these knights to cut his neck, to cut his head, to behead him, and after 1 year he will be back to give the hit back, to cut them, the person who have cutted him. So this is a story of that kind, and it is known as the chivalric romance in the Middle English, right? John Wycliffe, another writer, was a religious reformer. He is the one who started the Lollard movement. He is the one who tells people that there is nothing in the churches. It's all in the Bible, and it is written in the Latin, and that's the only reason you guys are unable to understand it. It should be written in the English, and when he did it, they killed him. Right? Wycliffe questioned the privileged status of the clergy. Wycliffe, do you know he was buried? They dig his grave up. They bring him out and insulted him and show him that who he really was, because the clergy didn't want John Wycliffe to be a person who is admired by the people. So they give him that treatment, but he got the sympathy of the people. And we know today the people who did that thing, they are nowhere. But he's the one who did the right thing. He is still remembered. Right? And he is the first one to translate the Vulgate's Bible into the Middle English. And because of that, He earned the tag of the father of English prose. He is known as the morning star of English Reformation. You should know these things about him. Now let's move further and discuss the age of revival. Historical aspects. Don't you ever get bored. If you get bored here on this video, then how are you going to read it yourself? And there is no need to read all these things after this, right? This much is enough. Age is also known as the age of Renaissance. Renaissance is French for the rebirth and humanism. Okay, during this period, England not influenced by the Greek culture. During this period, England got influenced by the Greek culture, and that's the reason they invested their whole energy into reading these works, right? And that's the reason we have a less literary work in this period. Now, the historical events: Battle of Agincourt, 1415, Treaty of Troyes, 1420, Johann Gutenberg invention of printing press in the 1439, which came to England in the 1475 by the William Caxton. War of Roses from 1455 to 1487, 100 years war. From minus when it started somewhere in 1338, right? Somewhere, right? Or 1337. It started in this period and ended in the 1453. Columbus discovered America in 1492. This is another important thing that you have to remember. Then we have Thomas More here. This is his date of birth, very much of no importance, but just to let you know that during which period he was living. Even after knowing that, it's not important, but still I give it. He was beheaded for opposing Henry IV's separation from the Catholic Church. Henry IV wanted to separate from the Catholic Church because only by separating from this he can give divorce to his earlier wife and get married to the another one. And for not letting him do this, he was beheaded. Now we have word utopia here from his novel. He is the one who invented the word utopia, right? And this word derives from the Greek, which has a double meaning: good place as well and no place as well, which simply means that there is a no place like utopia. No place like utopia. It just simply means that. So this work of Utopia, published in Latin in the 1516 and in English in the 1551 by Ralph Robinson. Alright, the first here publishers are important. They are being asked, and that is the reason it is being discussed here. The first book is told from the perspective of More, the narrator, who is introduced by his friend Peter Giles. Here the narrator is introduced by the Peter Giles to a fellow traveler, Raphael Hithlore, whose means expert of nonsense, and in Hebrew it means God has healed. Book is divided into the two parts: Dialogue of Counsel, Dialogue of Utopia. It should be mentioned here. This should be mentioned here. Thomas Mallory, the knight and author, famous for the death of the author. Work got completed in the 1417. Whole work is into the 21 books published by the William Caxton in the 1485. It tells the tale about the King Arthur's court. These are the chivalric tales, right? Knights of the Round Table. You must have heard about it. And their quest for the mystical Holy Grail. So Holy Grail, you know, cup that in which Jesus drank, the prophet drank the wine on the Last Supper. You must have seen this picture of Last Supper, right? Roger Ascham, 1515 to 1568. Again, date of birth of no importance, but we are just habitual. As a student of NET examination, we have to mug it up these dates, so they are just coming everywhere, even though they are of no importance now. because now we're getting questions from the comprehension as well. He was an English author and scholar. He was Elizabeth's tutor in Greek and Latin. He used to teach Elizabeth Greek and Latin between this time period. His work is Toxophilus, which means school of shooting, published in the 1545. It was defended, it was a defense, it was written in the defense of archery. Claims that it is not suitable for scholar. He want to say no, it is suitable for scholars. Then we have here Scottish Chaucerians. Very first is the King James, because they followed the Chaucer by using his 7-line rhyme roll stanza, which was invented by the Chaucer, but first time used by the King James. His very famous work is Ballad of Good Counsel, Christ Kirk on the Green, and King's Choir. And the King's Choir is a work where he used the rhyme roll stanza for the very first time. Robert Henry's work is the Testament of Cressida, influenced by the Troilus and Cressida by the Chaucer, who copy pasted it from the another writer, right? The Moral Fables of Aesop is another work. Orpheus Eurydice is another work. Robin Main is another work. These works are important in your set examination, but in NET I don't think so these work will be asked. You just have to remember the name of these Chaucerians. Gawain Douglas, right? He translated the Virgil's work into verse. His work are Palace of Honor. It is the imitation of House of Fame, which was the imitation of Dante. Only imitation we have here. Only imitation we have here. King Heart, another important work, but not from exam perspective, so no need to. But why did I mention it then here? William Dunbar. He perhaps the most famous Scottish poet before Burns. His poetry is mostly satirical, satire on clergy, the woman and the tradesman. How can he make a satire on women? I can't bear this. Feminism. The Two Married Women and the Window. The Devil's Inquest. Thistle and these are not, this is the only important work we have here is this, the Golden Touch, the famous allegory. So this is, we ended from the Anglo Saxon Age to your age of the revival, from 450 AD to the 1550. Most boring units we have here. Yeah, we can make them interesting by talking one work, but this is it for now. So very soon you will be getting quiz on my website, myprofessornote.com. Thanks for watching. If you're watching till now, very soon I'll be back another relevant video which will be a continuation of this series. So bye bye, keep pushing your limits. Till then time, Bhupesh Sharma signing off.